Welcome to Sputnik, orbiting the world with me, George Galloway.
And me, Gayatri.
Critical thinking and an understanding of philosophy has never been in shorter supply. Despite the proliferation of platforms, understanding is often a mile wide but an inch deep. And as a wise man said long before social media, a little knowledge is dangerous.
Our first guest today is a controversial Muslim scholar, philosopher, and critical thinker. He's Turkish, Kurdish American, and his books and even website are banned in Turkey. He challenges prevailing orthodoxy within the religion and the secular world.
In the wake of the man-made earthquake in Christchurch, New Zealand, and as we wait for its inevitable aftershocks, we're taking advantage of his brief presence in London to welcome on board the Sputnik Dr. Edip Yuksel. Doctor, thank you for joining us. Let's start with the very somber events in New Zealand. Despite the best efforts of social media companies, every Muslim in the world with a telephone has viewed the footage of the systematic, cold-blooded slaughter of 50 of their co-religionists killed only because of their religion. Aftershocks, inevitable, I'm sure. But what lies beneath all these bodies? And what do you think it's going to lead to?
The terrorism, I call it gang terrorism. And I think it is a diversion. I consider the greatest terrorists are the states. We don't see the pictures of soldiers killing. Did you see the pictures of people dying under the bombs? Children, the bodies basically losing their bodies and shattered lives. We don't see that. Therefore, we become numb towards, we don't care about the things we don't see. But we are shown the picture of this gang terrorism, which is a byproduct of state terrorism and wars. If you look at where these groups come from, they come out of Afghanistan. It was invaded by Russia, then by United States, and many people were killed and tortured, traumatized place. Iraq, again, gave birth later to ISIS, and Afghanistan gave birth to Al-Qaeda.
Well, that's where Islamist terrorism comes from. Yeah. Where does white supremacist terrorism come from?
I want to emphasize, I am not going to condemn the young people. When I look at them, these are young people. A few years ago, they were sweet children. We have a machine that creates this. Instead of blaming those people in power, they know better, they have much power, they create an environment media. The media is giving them the idea that these people who are coming, of course, they are our enemies. Why they are coming to our country? But these white supremacists, they have no idea that the Western world, their countries, have already invaded their countries, destroyed their countries, killed many, and those people escaped here. They are not informed. The problem is they think their country is really great, their state is wonderful, and these people are evil. Therefore, I'm not going to accuse these people, terrorists, condemn them. Those people who are condemning the older guys who have money and power, we should focus on them. This is diversion, diversion, diversion. He is a victim. That guy himself is the victim of this propaganda.
Well, up to a point, nobody, I think, sane would contest that point. But that presupposes the absence of evil intent among some Muslims. Yeah. And I'm in a position, I suspect you are, to know that there are Muslims who are infested with sectarian, medieval mindset, which thinks it's not just okay but religiously endorsed
Yes.
to rape Yazidi women, and claim the Quran gives authorization for it, to cut off people's heads, to crucify them, and so on.
Beautiful.
Surely we have seen, and I have met such people, this madness of sectarianism is a thing, a real thing inside the Muslim community.
Okay, I have been promoting Islamic reform since 1986. I was a popular author and leader of Muslim youth in Turkey. I realized there are major problems in the religion that I put my life at risk. Soon after Iranian Revolution, 1 year, I was invited by Iran top leaders, secretly representative of the Turkish youth, how to import Iran or export Iranian Revolution to Turkey. I was in such position, but when I look at it, it doesn't square. When I find out that the Quran is a very progressive book, is incredible, very different than what today's Muslims believe. I have difficulty to call them Muslim, my brother, because Islam means peacemaking. Even the meaning of it got lost. Salam means peace, Islam is peacemaking. Now, the Quran translation, if you look at it, there are major distortions in translation of some key verses about war, about women, about freedom. Those issues deliberately tinkered with, and I am in Quran and Reformist translation. I argue, I debated with top clergymen, Turkish clergymen, in fact, with the and he escaped from the studio twice because they don't have counter-argument. The issue is this: after Prophet Muhammad, in fact, after Jesus, messengers come to tell people, we have common one God, one creator. Let's not make idols. My idol is better than you. Fight over idols. We are all children of Adam, one person, whether evolution or not. We are, therefore, let's not divide ourselves based on color and stuff. This is what divides us. Two things: nationalism and religion based on idols besides God. Jesus is better. Without Jesus, no. Muhammad, without Muhammad, not. Or this. No, this is, messengers did not come to promote their names, put their names next to God. Okay, remove Jesus' name, put my name. Muhammad didn't come for that. In fact, La ilaha illallah never comes with Muhammad Rasulullah in the Quran. Never. 29 times. Because it is, they say, oh, people of the book, let's get united. Only one creator of the universe. And God has all beautiful name. What is it? We submit, we serve, haq, the truth. God is the truth. Serve the truth. God is just, al-adl. Serve justice, be just. God is peace, salam. Therefore, this is what unites him. But later, after each messenger's prophets, their enemies, clergymen, distorted the message through fabrication, hearsay, and stuff, and then absolutely the opposite. Therefore, today's Sunni and Shiite religions have nothing to do with Quran. But here is the issue. This teaching of ISIS is in Sunni religion. It is there. But it was inactive virus. What activated it? It was the war. The killing of the people traumatized them. They get united with what? Religion is the one that gives motivation. Their religion. When they went to that religion, when they became fanatic, during the war is the enemy of everything good that we know, my brother. Everything good. Enemy of love, enemy of care, enemy of children, enemy of truth. Through wars, during the war, countries make up all propaganda, lies. Therefore, when everything is evil and people turn to the most evil thing in their teaching. When you look at the Quran said, Arab people, no one cared about them. They were ignorant people, slave owners, fighting over their whatever. And then with the Quran, soon they became the leader of civilization in sciences. In fact, centuries before Darwin, the Muslim scientists, they were saying evolution is true. In fact, it started from crystals.
So what happened to the Muslims? They were the scientists, their empire in Spain was highly developed. How do we go from that to the caves of the Tora Bora?
Yeah, well, the Quran says do not follow anything blindly. Question. That's the major impetus in science.
Question more. That's our that's our motto.
Question why? And therefore, the Quran very critical of people following their parents blindly. The word faith in the Quran is in fact criticized. Faith means blindly following of something. Why do you believe? Well, because I believe. What? What is your evidence? You are believing in the most extraordinary stuff, stories, and you have no shred of evidence. And the Quran calls the universe as God's book. The word ayat means signs, is used both for the words of the Quran, statements in the Quran, and also in the natural events, physical, chemical events. Yeah. Therefore, they open-minded. They translated the Greek work, they expanded. In mathematics, in the first, for example, cybernetics. In Al-Jazari, cybernetics, robotics, he made robot in a very early first. Ibn Sina and so many of them, and Abul Iz and stuff. Now, what happened? Meanwhile, there was a backward movement, hadith. And hadith is the one that makes people unreasonable and prohibit many normal things that humans should do. Even music is prohibited by hadith. Music is haram. Do you understand? Yeah. And therefore, freedom of expression is prohibited, because when you become murtad, you are killed. According to the Quran, no. La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. In fact, the Quran says in chapter 440, if you are discussing religion with your opponents, if they start making mockery of you, insult your religion, the word religion, your philosophy, leave their presence, and then when they stop in mockery mode, when they are now in thinking mode, go back, continue your discussion. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Say peace, leave, and then come back. But now, if someone insults Muhammad, they go try to kill the guy. If they have power, they will do. And this is just against the Quran. The Quran says this world is free. I gave permission, everyone, whatever. It is, God is the day of judgment, will judge people, not you, about their moral things. One thing in the Muslim world confused is morality versus legality. Moral is confused with legal. Therefore, it's something moral, it is personal. Goodness, who are you to impose your moral, personal decision, religious decision on me? But if it is legal, means my action is physically or financially directly hurting someone else, then you may have a case. But if it is, and therefore there is this confusion.
Well, I, for one, I'm going to have to read your book.
Please,
Doctor, thanks for coming on the Sputnik.
Coming up next is the human lie detector. Stay tuned.